one. It's connecting, and we are live.
Good day, everybody. WooFDriver coming to you live once again on our daily podcast, VODCast, talk, whatever, however you want to address this. But we are live right now, so I just want to preface it by saying, if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the way I look with the helmet on it or the way the funny guy looks next to me, don't hesitate to please put them there, and I will address them. Even if you just want to shout out, even if you don't like the color of my hair or my beard or whatever, it's all good. We want good conversation though, and one thing I like to always say is that it doesn't matter what you say. I like to address it, so that's all good. So let me start off by introducing Sean. This is, we call him around the WooFDriver scene the Burning Man because he's involved in Burning Man. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but Sean, you can tell him about Burning Man.
You don't want me to talk about Burning Man. How long do we have? We have 45 minutes or so, and that's not even enough time to start.
So, for those of you that know Burning Man, look it up. He was part of the scene a few years back, many years ago, I should say, but still involved in the community. Techno hippie, there you go. And if you don't know me, if this is your first time tuning in, I'm the guy out there driving the dog team using dog motorsports. So that's something I pioneered. It basically makes it so almost any dog, even we have a toy breed Chinese Crested, can be involved in it. So when I say a toy breed Chinese Crested, she's small, as it says, 19 pounds, and she can run on dog motorsports. So dog motorsports are basically bikes and all kinds of rigs that dogs can exercise with and adventure. And that's what I do. I travel up and down the East Coast. I've been running dogs for 30 years and traveling with them for 15 years. So the first thing today, and don't forget, any questions, comments, concerns, anything, please go ahead and put them down, even just a shout out. But the first topic we're going to cover today, because I usually don't have a guest. This is the first podcast that we've done in recent years where I've had a guest with me. And Sean, just to give you a little background on him, I know he told you he's the Burning Man, but he has done all of, I'm sorry, I'm looking two ways because I've got TikTok here and all the other live streams here. But Sean has been with me before I even became the WooFDriver. So we've known each other for many years. And Sean is really a techno expert, for lack of a better description. And he's done events. He's coordinated events from large displays, music events, even political events. He's been involved in basically running some pretty sophisticated events, and he's also extremely good with the computer, with programming, with IT, with all of this. And you can interrupt me if you say anything or I say anything wrong, but I'll keep tooting his horn.
I will say that in running some events that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, like things on the National Mall, he challenges me.
and when he says things on the National Mall, we've actually done a WooFDriver run because of Sean. I wouldn't have done it without him on the National Mall. So if you're not familiar with the National Mall, it goes to Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, it's the U.S. Capitol, and the Smithsonian Institutes are all along the Washington Mall. So if you're not from this area, we just assume everyone knows what it is.
It's the national park between the White House and the Capitol.
Exactly.
The easiest way to explain it.
So we've actually run a team of dogs, my team of dogs. And Sean coordinated everything. We did a live broadcast. And I'm going back probably circa 2012. So 13, 14 years ago, maybe something like that, 10 years, 12 years ago. So keep that in mind. But what I want to talk about today, the first thing, is about our premiere. So I've worked with Rod Lopez from New Style Independent Studios, and that's where we're at today. That's where I do these live broadcasts. And he's produced, and we've worked together to make what we call the WooFDriver documentary. And we've been working on it for probably 5 years. Between concept and final production has been 5 years. And we just did our premiere. It's entered some film festivals, and we've actually won a few awards. So it's really interesting, and it's done from the perspective it's done. Again, it's a documentary, but there's people I don't even know that are a part of the documentary that Rod went out and interviewed just to talk about dogs and what they mean to them. Because Rod explains in the documentary that when he met me, when I originally contracted with Rod or hired him to basically edit some of the videos I was doing out on the trail, which were self-made videos that Sean would do a bunch of work on in the beginning, because I wanted to document what I'm doing, because it's like nothing anybody's ever seen. Yeah, there's plenty of dog sled teams out there, but I'm doing this on a recreational level strictly. I don't do for any competitions, and I'm not doing this for any to do to win any awards per se. I'm doing this strictly for the entertainment and health benefits of my dogs, and I got involved with it because I realized after getting my first husky that dog walks and fetching a ball and all normal things dog families do are not going to cut it with a breed like a husky. So I either had to get my husky more physically and therefore mentally engaged, or he was going to be pretty rambunctious and hard to control. So that's how I got involved in this whole scene, and that's how Dog Motorsports WooFDriver came about. So our documentary films a lot of that. Rod I hired again because he had no idea. Most people, when I tell them what I do, just even if you've never tuned in before and you hear this, you're like, what is this guy talking about? And Rod clearly says that in the documentary. Pretty funny, actually. So, and from the beginning, though, when I started doing this, Sean has been with me and watched this whole thing evolve, and actually been a big part of it evolving. So the documentary follows that through the course of it. Now, in the earlier years, there weren't GoPros, or they were just getting started. There weren't a lot of ways to document what I did. So unfortunately, I'm talking circa 95-ish, there wasn't great ways to document what I was doing. So a lot of that comes from my own stories. There's some pictures. There is some limited videos that are incorporated somewhat in the documentary. But the latter stuff, it's still going back another generation of Huskies of mine. That's the heart of what's in the documentary. Really interesting. Some people tune into me because they're vicariously living through me and what I do, because they've had Huskies, they've done similar experiences, they understand Huskies. And some people like adventure, they're into traveling trails. I actually had someone follow me on TikTok, and I was going through a trail in a really, what I would consider a remote area, kind of in New York State, somewhere in the Catskill Mountain area. And all of a sudden, they're yelling, WooFDriver, WooFDriver. And my pit crew, as Sean is, I have a large pit crew over the years. A lot of people have worked with me in this capacity, whether it's out on the trails or inside of the studio. They've participated in a lot of ways. And quite frankly, that's how I got to do, or I'm getting to do what I do still today. But my pit crew there were saying, WooFDriver, WooFDriver. And they're like, who's this person? Who's this lady? And it was actually someone that follows me on TikTok, and she has no dogs, from my understanding, I don't think she has any dogs. I don't think she has experience running dogs. She said she follows me to see the trails I go to know about the safety of them, what they're all involved, what's involved with them, and for the adventure. So there's a lot of reasons. The documentary tells all about it.
Along that note, one of the most impressive things that I remember was when drones were first coming out. We had there was a lot of issues. Like when the first drones came out, they were like, don't use them anywhere in the public. You can use them in your backyard, type of thing. So we were doing the C&O Canal so much that we were worried about defying their rules. So I called up the park headquarters for the C&O Canal. For those people not in the DC area, the C&O Canal is a
184.5
mile long national park, essentially. It's goes all along the Potomac River, and it's a canal that was originally, a good portion of it was surveyed by then young George Washington. But in any case, there's a national park headquarters. So I called up their office to find out what we would need to get permission to fly drones there. And I called up, and the receptionist answered the phone. And I said, yes, I'd like to speak to somebody about permission to use drones. And she was at first, very cut-offish. We don't allow drones, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, well, can you tell me when I could possibly talk to somebody and who I would talk to about it? She's like, okay, what's your name? Who are you with? And I said, my name is Sean. And I gave my phone number, and I said, I'm with a crew called the WooFDriver. And as soon as I said that, she lit up. Oh, you're with the WooFDriver. Hold on a second. Click. The commandant will talk to you right now. And boom, I was talking with the commandant, the head person for the park. And he's like, thank you guys so much. You know, we love all your videos you do for our park. We refer people all the time because you do these long, you cover 15 miles of our trail and you just ramble and talk about history. You can't tell us how much of a resource that is. And yes, we do allow select drone, this is back then, we do allow select drone usage and just make sure you have your FCC on there. And if anybody gives you any problems, just tell them that I said it was okay. And then boom, we can now suddenly do drones there. Mostly because of what he's saying, that we just had this reputation of doing quality videos. And it's more than just action videos. If you ever watch anything that Bill does, he's a talker, if you haven't figured out from these things. And he looks into the history of it. Like we'll go along and stop at a lock house, and he'll tell you about this Civil War general that stayed at that lock house or whatever. I don't know. I made that up. But he would tell you, and you actually rented a lock house before to do.
What we found, which we don't touch enough on in the documentary, is that we've done this whole thing evolved into ghost hunting because of what Sean is talking about. Because as I run dogs all year long, which a lot of people. So if you tune into me, you're going to find I think outside of the box all the time. I thrive on my creativity, and I use it to give my dogs the best life possible. So a lot of people are like, never run dogs in the summer. When I first got involved with this, and rightfully so, they say that. The thing is that dogs still need exercise, and I want to give them the best lives possible. As you know, unfortunately, they live shorter lives than humans. So I'm like, you know what? I would love to be able to get them outside in the warmer months. Of course, in the summer, when you have the sun beating on you and the hot conditions and humid a lot of times in our area, we're in Maryland, and we do travel the East Coast, but still you're going to get a lot of too much heat. So we started going at night because it's cooler at night usually. Now, not when it's too hot, but a lot of times there's a lot of manageable nights, manageable evening runs, and I called it midnight mushing. And somewhere along the lines, and I can go into this story, which I'll do another time. I don't want to take all the time here with Sean up, but we ran into what we thought was paranormal activity, and we're like, you know what? We need to rest the dogs more because we're running, even though it's nighttime and the sun isn't out. It's still it's not hot.
It was the mugginess.
Yeah, some mugginess sometimes. So we would give them rest, and we would be along trails like the C&O, where there's a lot of Civil War history and a lot of history from the 1700s, late 1700s, early 1800s. So we're like, you know what? Maybe we could explore some of these places.
I remember it because we were going along to C&O, and was it you or Crispy or somebody got the heebie-jeebies? We're like going along the trail, and they're like, something's weird. We look over, and here's this like dilapidated old house back off in the woods, and we got out and explored it. And that's I think it was Crispy at the time said, we ought to do ghost hunting. And that's how Werewolf started.
Because a lot of these dilapidated houses are old block houses, and because this is a federal park, as Sean said.
But this wasn't a rock house, but I think it was somebody that had to do with this. It was an old house that had to do with it.
Yeah, because people lived along there, and when it became a federal park,
it was like a highway.
Easements and right-of-ways.
Back in those days, it was a highway.
Yeah, so actually, Rhett, who was one of my, I call them co-pilots, the people that actually go with me on the trails. At those times, I was running a lot of tandem bikes, which are two-people bikes where the dogs were on the side, and we were doing it, and we stopped and we talked about this, and actually set Rhett inside.
Yeah.
And maybe it was the next time we had a FLIR camera. And he went in with the FLIR camera, and I said, we're here. If you need us, call us. And someone's got to stay with the dogs, and I'm going to stay with dogs.
For those that haven't seen the older videos, the dichotomy between the WooFDriver and Rhett was funny because if you've ever seen Mutual of Omaha back in the day,
you're showing your age.
Yeah, I'm showing my age. There's this old program called Mutual of Omaha, which went out and did like National Geographic type stuff. And there was this old guy, I forget his name, and he'd be like, and then we wrestled a lion. And he's standing there in the camera shot, and you see this young guy in the background, like, he's like, and it was really challenging. It's like, but that's Bill and Rhett. Bill would be like, you know, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to get a camera shot from the top of that bridge. Rhett, climb up on that bridge. hey, Rhett, go check out that haunted house. So yeah, that's what it was in Crispy. Is Rhett. It's like we got the heebie-jeebies. We need somebody to go in that house. Rhett, get in there.
And Red didn't love paranormal thoughts.
Not at all.
He's like, you know, he would do anything I asked him to do. Like
that was part of the fun of it. We're like, who's gonna go in there? You want to go? I'm not gonna go there. Said Rhett. Me? Not me. Yep, you're the junior person. Get in there.
So we have this clear attachment that goes on the bottom of an iPhone or an Android, and I send Rhett in there, and I said, call us if you need help, or we're with the dog. And also dogs, a lot of people say they have a sixth sense, so they'd be perfect to be on the perimeter. We would certainly want to take them inside of this place, but we were arresting them anyway. So all of a sudden, Rhett's in there, and then we hear him, hey, and I'm like, what's going on? He comes flying out of this thing.
Running down the stairs.
He's like, this FLIR, look, there's eyeballs on there. And when it saw me, because it was at the top of the steps in this, again, dilapidated house, and when it saw me, it took off.
It was like a raccoon. It was like a raccoon or something.
Or a mouse.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell if it was 4 eyes or 2 eyes, 2 mice, or two raccoons.
You have to keep in mind that Rhett was
we don't know what it was.
But I'm just putting in context. Rhett's like 6'2" and 250.
He was a football player.
Yeah, he was a big manly type man, and be like,
And
he
he was an outdoorsman. But I mean, I would have been the same way, I'm sure. But when he got there, and we did look at this footage, and it's on YouTube. It's one of our first paranormal experiences, and Rhett used a few choice words. He was a little bit because he was a little taken back, for lack of better description.
If you have problems with language, you shouldn't watch a lot of WooFDriver.
Well, I think I might have a cleaner version.
Now you have clean versions, but back in the early days, there was not too many filters when it came to language.
Yeah, so that's how we got started with ghost hunting, and it became a whole big production. And actually, the last ghost hunting adventures, we actually one of them we went to Williamsport. And Sean was responsible for getting us in touch with the mayor of Williamsport. Yeah. And we were able to ghost hunt on Halloween.
That's another example, just like the commandant from the National Park Service, where we found it, Williamsport, for those of you who don't know, it's on the C&O Canal. There is a Civil War cemetery there that's part of the National Park Service. So it's right on the Potomac River, right on the C&O Canal, and there's a large National Park Service area with a cemetery. And national parks and cemeteries are open 24 hours. So we could do ghost hunting along the edge of the cemetery and stuff like that. And I said, well, let's talk to it's an old town too. Let me talk to the town. Maybe we can get in there and do some ghost hunting in some of the buildings. And I talked to the mayor, and the mayor knew not only WooFDriver, but the mayor knew the werewolf aspect of WooFDriver. And he's like, oh, you want to bring werewolves into our town? Awesome. And he gave us the key to the city, literally. Like, he met us at the town hall.
Springfield or something it was called.
Yeah, the town hall was a historic building too. And he came in off hours and let us come in and do. It was really amazing. There was it George Washington stayed at a house that was outside of it?
Yeah. So it was a slave quarters.
Yeah, it's a slave quarters.
And that's where we were ghost hunting. And you remember one of our crew members, Crispy, main guy like Sean, he got smacked, or Curtis got smacked. And like, it was crazy. He's like, no one was around. Yeah, something just hit me.
Yeah, one of the people that we started off just kind of messing around on our own, and then for the werewolves, we decided that we need a real ghost hunter. We need somebody, like, we're messing around with stuff. Like, okay, well, we can record, but we watched the ghost hunting on TV. It's like, well, there's a lot of stuff we're missing. So we actually got this gentleman by the name of Curtis, who is a real ghost hunter. Like, he had been on some of the TV shows and stuff. And he opened up all kinds of technical aspects, all these different.
He told us about different equipment.
Yeah, different equipment and stuff.
And different procedures that they use, and how to, look to see if something's real, or we try to get the most, true to light, or the most accurate evidence possible. So he taught us how to actually discern it, or try to, see if it's spoofed, see if something is causing this, or if it's the real deal.
I'd also like to say here that every ghost hunting crew needs to have a skeptic. That's me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So if you hear me say anything negative about this, it's because that was my job, self-proclaimed job. Because I didn't think a lot of this stuff is real, but there were some unexplained things we found.
Yeah.
Like we would record stuff and then go back and listen to the recordings, and we could actually hear words that nobody was there but us, and we weren't saying them. They were random stuff, but it was interesting.
Curtis would take that stuff,
Yeah.
Anything we could get when we were on location, he would take it and he would try to make a relative conversation with it and see if it was making sense. And that's how we would see it. Is this just some random voice somehow coming through, or are we communicating with someone on the other side?
Yeah.
So you got to watch some of those videos.
But to go full circle back to Williamsport. Curtis is like a kid in a candy shop. He was just like, we can go to that building. We can. Not only can we go to that building, but the mayor is going to unlock the door for us.
And we could
go to this old 280-year-old house and go to all the different buildings that are at 250 years old, unchanged. He was like a kid in a candy store with having the key to the city.
And at that point, we expanded. We brought another ghost hunting professional on board, which was from Spirits Wake.
Spirits Awake. She's on social media. She's Spirits Awake. I think it's together, not separate words.
I think so too. And she added another aspect because she would totally ghost hunt different than Curtis. So it was pretty interesting to see.
It's
the dichotomy.
It's like
she was calm and he's hyper.
Curtis was calm and hyper. Curtis was all about the technology. Like, we must measure this and we need to combine this and look at this and look at that and overlay this with that and see what we're getting. And Para Ann was like, I want to go out and feel what the ghosts are going to tell to me. She does seances and stuff.
She'd go in her own corner, for lack of a better description.
So everybody else is going around like, look at this, and she's just in the corner going.
And we're like, what? We had to ask her,
and
what
she's
do you
like,
get?
Look over there. And we go over there and be like, ah.
And this is what makes this WooFDriver the whole aura about it, everything we do, is so much about adventure and about what we're going to discover through history, through nature, and all the aspects we get involved, and how the dogs get involved with it too. Because even though the dogs weren't with us on that particular adventure, because we knew we were going in areas where we couldn't run the dogs, and we don't want to bring them out there all night unless we could run them before, which we did sometimes. But they inspired me to get involved with it. So that's how everything works together. Now, a lot of times, a lot of these ghost hunts were involving the dogs, not going with us into the particular ruins of something or remnants of a building, but after we ran them or during their run, they would be there, and I would hire somebody. I would have one of my pit crew guys, old wise man Jimmy, I call him, sit with the dogs. If I was going to go, if we were running the dogs, he'd be in the back of my dog cart with me, and I'd be running them, and there'd be a couple other dog bikes with us in case we needed to change them, but that would be the transportation that could handle the trails, and the people would be with me, and we would all go on the ghost hunting expedition. We'd park right in front of for instance, one of these old lock houses on the CNO, and we'd go in, and Jim, old wise man Jimmy, would stay there and have a walkie-talkie. He'd stay there and comfort the dogs, make sure they were okay, and keep an eye on them, quite frankly. But they were in the middle of an adventure, 3-4 miles in, so they were pretty happy with just sitting there waiting for us while he watered them and petted them and just sat there with them, basically. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So I want to see if you don't forget, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just want to shout out, please put that in the comment section or whatever social media you're watching. TikTok, it's a little harder because we are.
I forgot about you.
But you have to broadcast separately at this point with TikTok. Mm-hmm. And by the way, why am I wearing this helmet? So I just wear different helmets. I didn't bring the cameras. I should, to emphasize that if you ever see me out there, you might say, what the heck is this guy doing? So I put these helmets on because they're stronger than most hats. They're not going to maybe save my life or anything if I fall, but there's nothing to fall out of. When I'm on the dog cart, it's pretty much dog level, and we're not going anywhere I'm going to fall out of.
Easy rider.
But yeah, that's true. But I put cameras on my helmet so I can get pretty unprecedented views, POV, my point of view, etc. And you can see that all on YouTube.
There, especially in the old days, before we use a lot of 360 cameras now. Before 360 cameras came out, we would come back from a shoot and we would have 9 or 10 cameras, 4 hours each of content. He'd be like, "Here, make a 4-minute video," and I'm like, "I've got 48 hours of content to search through to make an 8-minute video."
And that's quite frankly how I met
Two
Rob.
of them are right there.
Exactly. So it's pretty cool getting a view from your own eyes, essentially. And I wear glasses now because technology's evolved enough where Meta, Ray-Ban, Facebook, and Ray-Ban basically have teamed up to make glasses that have cameras built into them and really give you a cool perspective. My biggest thing is I'm always looking for the widest view, because when the dogs were on the side, now a lot of times you see me, the dogs are out front, but when they were on the side, it was hard to understand what you were looking at. You're just like, oh, this guy's driving down a trail. Why is he documenting this? Well, this guy's got 4 dogs on the side of him. So you couldn't always get that view unless you had a really wide camera. So just wanted to check. Do we have anything, Rod? Any questions or comments? Just looking here. So, so who said this? I'm trying to blow this up. Sorry. Okay. Selma Baldwin, thanks for commenting. Selma says, just saw videos today, have no clue who you are, but looking forward to learn more. Thank you so much. I appreciate the comment, Selma. And yeah, basically, I'm a guy that's got 4 Huskies, right? That's usually my team is 4 Huskies. And I've been running them for 30 years. Not the same ones, of course, multiple generations of Huskies. I started with 1, grew to 2, grew to 3, grew to 4, etc. And I run
6 soon.
Might be. We'll talk about that next. But might run them on the east. I do run them on the east coast of the USA and travel just to be on a different trail every week, sometimes twice a week. So I've got a crew. One guy is essentially a driver. He'll drop us off. So I'll pick out a trail. Let's say the Cape Cod Rail Trail, Massachusetts, we're going to. He'll drop me off on one end, depending how long it is or how long we think we can go for. And that trail we were able to do the whole in its entirety. I think it might be 12, 13 miles, whatever. Dropped me off at one end, picks us up at the other end. So we don't have to double back. Because with the dogs and even with humans, you know you've been there before. If you go out 5 miles, you want to do 10 miles, you got 5 miles and turn around and come back 5 miles. The dogs smell, they know they were just there. So it's not as exciting. It's not as motivating for them. And we've seen the same sights and sounds. We want to be able to go the trail. Say we did the entire trail, or the section we're aiming to do, and just have new scents, new sights, new sounds.
And it makes when record the entire he went through a whole phase where he would just put out there that whole entire thing. And it was actually good for the owners of the trail, just like the CNO. They loved the fact that we would go along and record nonstop 15 miles of the CNO canal, because people would say, well, what does this section look like? And they would literally say, hey, here's a WooFDriver video. Go look at that. And they could look at that trail. And it does a lot of the people that run these trails love the fact that we do it because we're documenting it for them.
I actually did the Heidelberg Trail, which is near the Ghost Town Trail in Pennsylvania. And it's kind of like an offshoot of it. It's near it. And we did some aerial footage. So usually it's not always legal, especially today. It's got more stringent, the rules, where you can fly inside these parks. You can almost always, as long as it's not restricted airspace, fly outside of them. So my wingman, the guy that drops us off and takes us, and he also fixes all the bikes, builds them, etc. He would fly the drone over us in the park, so we were abiding by all the rules when we couldn't fly inside. And he would catch us on the trail of, for instance, this Heidelberg Trail. Well, I had the Heidelberg contact me. I posted some of these videos on Flickr. And they're like, hey, can we use some of your videos? We have no aerial footage of our trail. And I'm like, sure. I mean, I thought they were going to say you can't do what you did, but legally we could.
Yeah. And most of the time what happens is it's not people like us they're worried about. Like if people are coming in and doing very specific things and being respectful, like if we see crowds of people, or if we're coming up on some place that we think we would be interfere with other park visitors' experience, we ground. We just ground, we go on through, and then we fly again on the other side. Other people will come in and be like, oh, there's a crowd of people, let's buzz over top of them. It's people that aren't respectful that why it's just like most laws. That's why laws are in place. So laws are there to get the disrespectful people in line, not to keep people that are respectful. So
Yeah, and we're some of the most respectful people out there, and we do it purposely. But it's funny because everybody that sees me with the dogs, not trying to toot my own horn, but I make their day, they say. And if they're with children, sometimes if we're stopped, I'll let the people come over and pet the dogs. Dogs are all very friendly. Right now, I've got some younger dogs because the past couple of years, I've lost some of my older dogs. They've crossed Rainbow Bridge. So the younger dogs got a little more pep in their step. And when we stop, they don't want to stop. They want to keep going. And if someone comes over, they're very friendly, but they want to jump. Or they want to make eye contact with you. Now, I could train that out of them, but I personally love them jumping on me because it's a way they're trying to look in your eyes. And it's their intensity. I don't want to take that out of them.
And they're like,
it'll grow out of it. Yeah.
They're big puppies.
Yeah, they're big puppies.
Yeah, they want to give kisses and get hugs. They're not being aggressive in any sense of it.
Not any sense of the way.
And going back to what's interesting when you look at a lot of our old footage, when his prior generations were young, we'd be going along and we'd be like, there'd be people along the trail and we wouldn't want to stop. It's like, okay, yeah, get your pet in. We got to go. And then as they got older, all of us, both the dogs and us, were like, oh, let's stop and let them get pet. And Zara would be like, oh, I love this attention. Whereas 4 years before, he'd be like, okay, Scritch done. I want to run.
Exactly. And Sean brought up a good point because he was saying you might expand your team to 6. So there's just a small possibility at this point, but someone contacted me that what I like to do, get my Huskies, I want to really make sure they're 100% Husky because of what I do, and I just know the breed so well. I have had a Husky Malamute in the past. One of my best dogs, actually. I just loved him because Malamutes are a little more, I call them more people dogs, and Huskies are more dogs. So the Husky, if they have to choose between you and the dog, another dog, they usually go with the other dog. The Malamute, if it's got my experience, Malamute, if it's got to choose between you and the dog, is going to go with you. So
his name is Zorro, and he's incredibly sweet.
He was, yeah. He's crossed Rainbow Bridge a few years back. But I usually get dogs that have to be rescued from individual people, whether their living situations change. Sometimes they're breeders that because of some reason or another, they're retiring a dog, or the dog, one of my dogs, Inyo, she had a health issue where they had to remove her feminine parts, her uterus, etc. And she had to heal. She had almost lost her life for it, but I was able to get her, to add her to my crew, to my team, to my family, my Husky family. But I saw, because I follow different Husky people, and I wasn't inclined to expand my team, and I'm still not sure I'm going to do this because I want to make sure I can give them the best life possible. So it's harder as you get more Huskies, more to show them the individual love and attention sometimes they need. So I don't want to get too big, but someone had to get rid of a pair of Huskies. And they came from a breeder that I know, that I work with, that Inyo and Cyan came from, if you're familiar with them. And they, people are looking at one and not the other. So it looks like they're going to have to split them up. And they're only a year to 2 years old. They're not that old, but I know when you take one Husky and try to introduce it to a new family, it's a little hard when they're a little older, when they've gotten set in their own ways, even at a year.
Especially if they're bonded with another Husky.
So I'm considering, if I can work all the logistics out, of possibly getting the pair, because I can keep them together, and I know the family they come from, not the people they're living with now, but the breeder that was part of their breeding program. They're not in Huskies anymore, and I would be elated to be able to do that, to save these Huskies in that way and keep them together. So
and it brings up a good point of how you got into it. And a problem with the Husky breeds is a lot of times I'm into dachshunds. I show you my shirt, but I won't, because I might show you my belly.
Nobody wants to see that.
Exactly. What happens so often with dachshunds, and at the opposite end of the scale, Huskies, is people adopt them because they're cute and a dachshund, or because they're beautiful like a Husky, and don't know what they're getting into. They don't realize how active of a breed both of those dogs are. They think they're getting a therapy dog that they can just hug on the couch, and this dog starts running circles around the house because Huskies want to run. And that's what makes WooFDriver so good for Huskies is twofold. He gives a home to these dogs where they can do what they're bred to do. People are like, how can you make these dogs run 15 miles? It's like these dogs love to
They
run
could run
15
100
miles.
miles with proper conditions, proper training.
You do not
A day.
understand how happy these dogs are in a trail. If you want to be abusive to a husky, you put them in a living room floor in an apartment. That's abuse. So he not only gives homes to these huskies, but most importantly, his educational side of what he does, what WooFDriver does in his videos, and what we try to do as a team, is to show people how to own a husky and be a partner and let the husky do what it's bred to do.
And I developed these ways.
And a lot of his are rescues because of that.
What I call dog moto sports. And I've developed these ways that you don't need to be a full-time musher. You don't need to have a big yard. You don't need to have access to huge farms like I do to own a high-energy breed and to be able to give it the proper lifestyle, because a tired dog is a good dog. And that's what I'm all about, especially when it comes to huskiness, because that's why, quite frankly, the family that has these two dogs needs to get rid of them. And that's a terrible thing. And I want to cry when I hear that, because you adopt a dog. I understand. I mean, sometimes life throws some pretty big curveballs at you, and you may have to, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to get rid of a son or daughter. So when I say get rid of, it's hard to part ways. And to be able to do that with the dog, I don't understand it, but I know it happens. So if I can be the person that can keep them together, I want to be that person. But the people that are getting rid of them, they're saying that it's because their grandbaby, their granddaughter, grandson, whatever, is allergic to the husky, which happens, but doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And it hurts my heart to hear it. But a lot of it derives because people get these dogs, don't know what they're about, and don't understand how to solve the issue. The husky for me is a perfect breed because I'm an adventurous, I'm an outdoors guy, I like getting exercise, etc. So that was right along the lines. By doing dog motor sports, I can keep getting the husky breed even as I become get age debilitating conditions, arthritis and a bigger belly, whatever, bad knees, bad back, because of the electric part of the propulsion of the vehicles that I've designed. So I don't have to be as physical. I don't have to be on the back of the sled to manage them. And of course, when we're at home resting, the huskies are a lot calmer because they're psychologically and physically drained or stimulated, and they've aired it out. They've got it out of their system. So
and that could be a good segue to a subject that I find myself oftentimes defending the WooFDriver online. So just on my social media, I'll get on and I'll, of course, follow what we do. And so many comments are so much about, well, how can you make those poor dogs pull you all that way? And there's two sides to that coin. One, we've went through 30 different iterations of dog carts that are all motorized. There are a couple that are carts, like proper,
that are dog propelled.
Yeah, that are dog propelled. They're just carts only, so they're more like dog sled ones that are used short term. But when you see the WooFDriver out for 15 or 20 miles, it is all electric powered carts. And all what's really happening is, imagine going out and taking 4 dogs and running down the trail, right? So you're just running with the dog. I can't run 15 miles. I used to be able to, but most people couldn't, and you wouldn't be able to handle 4 huskies. The systems that we develop are just really high-end dog, instead of dog walking systems, they're high-end dog running systems. They're a way
but pulling is optional.
Yeah. Well,
some of them they can pull.
Well, I was just about to say that what ends up happening is that not only are we using electricity to not make them work, sometimes it's exact opposite. Sometimes they want to run and we don't want to, so we're on the brakes.
Right.
Like we're trying to slow them down because it's like they want to pull, they want to run, and we don't want to because whatever, they want to go running after a raccoon or something like that. So it's not the systems that we oftentimes get people that don't know what we're doing. They stumble across us in a social media feed.
Some of the videos go viral, and
Yeah.
they see this, and
And
you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video's worth a million. But they just see something and they say, "Oh my gosh, you're making that dog pull!" And look at you, how big you are, and how much equipment, and they don't realize that it's electric. And first of all, almost all my equipment, there's no weight on the dogs. It's just weight they can pull. But when you see a bar, the bar's cantilevered over the dog, so the weight of the bar is supported by the bike frame. And so they're not pulling and having weight on them. If they choose to pull, they only have the weight of the pull.
And that's a critical thing too. Is people will see the harnesses.
Right.
We use pulling harnesses because they do pull sometimes if we want them to or not. And two, when we have the brakes on and they don't want to stop. I have a dachshund. My dachshund will pull my arm out.
You got a few dachshunds.
Yeah, I got 2 dachshunds. But one dachshund, just a little 10.5-pound dog, will sometimes try to pull she'll go running after a squirrel and can pull the leash out of my hand if I'm not careful. Well, imagine a 60-pound dog bred to pull. You can't just take these dogs out for a walk, and you can't just put a collar on them and hook them to a bike, because then they're going to choke themselves. So we use pull harnesses not because we expect them to pull, but because we don't want them to injure themselves when they don't listen to us.
But sometimes they do pull. And some of my harnesses recently over the years, and Sean hasn't been as involved with this lately, we use the Swin Car and we use the Easy Raider, which is more like a sport called dog roading, where it's resistance. So they pull against it. So it's a resistance harness. It's not technically a pulling harness, but some of the dog motorsports, I've created like a hybrid. Some of it's a cross between the dog roading. I call it push to mush. So they're almost pushing, and that's propelling the vehicle, and they're getting resistance against them. And if I mix the dogs, some dogs are more engaged or more active than other of my dogs, especially when you get age disparity. So what I can do is put a resistance harness on one of them and put a regular pulling harness on another. So it becomes a totally different sport between the two dogs. And I can give them both similar physical challenges without overdoing it on either dog. So it's really interesting. And I pioneered a lot of this concept myself. And so it's dog roading, a new sport, but I've taken that, and of course, dog mushing, dog pulling, they call them joring sports, dog parrot sports, have been around for many years, obviously. And merging the two is kind of interesting. So I do a lot of that, and that's what WooFDriver, this whole WooFDriver is all about. My dog motorsports, my WooFDriver, and that's why I share it here, because it's just look at it, you're like, what is going on? And it takes more than you sometimes reading on my website. You want to hear it from me, and that's why I bring it to you in this format here. So we're going to see if we have any questions. It doesn't look like we got much brewing, but not at this time. Okay, so hopefully we've got a lot of viewers, but we don't have many questions. If you're watching this broadcast after the fact, please don't hesitate to go in there, comment, and question, etc. Because I monitor all this myself, all the social media. So you will almost 99% of the time get a direct response from me, and I can either answer you directly, point you to one of my websites, almost 20, that will answer your questions. And if you just, hopefully a lot of people I'm inspiring, I know some I've inspired, they've actually built similar to what I do or got involved in similar ways because of what I'm putting out there, have questions. How can I build this? And I've got not exactly a how to build video, but a video that kind of documented everything I did, so you can get a better idea and maybe build similar yourself or have someone do it for you. I will give you, if you want, exact dimensions. I don't sell anything.
And it doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
One of the devices he uses, which is right off the shelf, it's called a Springer, which you can attach to a regular bicycle. And it's called a Springer because the attachment point's on a spring. So that way, when you start and stop, it doesn't jerk the dog. It has think of it like a shock absorber for the harness.
Yes, and that's my favorite. That's my favorite device.
And you can put it on any bike. We have a Border Collie, and we put it on. Now, Border Collie, and he's an old man, so when we take our Border Collie out, it's like a half mile or a mile around the neighborhood. But he kind of likes it because I used to be a big runner when I was young. When 20, 30 years ago, I could probably keep up with his dogs. Not now. And so the border collie might want to go for a good long run that I can't handle. So this is a good option even for people that have semi-active dogs, not 15-mile dogs, but a dog that would want to run for half a mile or a mile. You can just hook them up to your bike. There's a learning curve and there's some safety issues for sure. It's more than just putting a springer on there. You want to protect the spokes. There's like coverage you can put on the spikes over the wheels so that their paws don't get in the spokes. But the bottom line is there is safe ways of doing it without building the WooFDriver contraptions, which...
And he touches on a good point. Someone actually contacted me, again, another Husky person that unfortunately they're disabled. And they said to me, hey, I'm really interested in your cart because right now I'm paying somebody to physically jog and run my Husky on leash because I can't give her the proper exercise that the Husky needs. So how can I build what you have, or how can I get it built for me? So I referred them to, it's alldog.com, ALLDOG.com, and they can see much more up close and personal of how I went about assembling this. If they need additional information, I had someone replicate almost my exact build. Unfortunately, the first time they did it, they didn't do it strong enough because they didn't realize they didn't have Huskies. But she was walking 3 or 4 dogs, and she couldn't walk them because it was just, I think, wearing her out. She wanted the opportunity of adventure to travel into different parks. And that's what my device, my electric dog sled on wheels does. It keeps them in a concise footprint and that they can't deviate. So you don't need a lead dog to keep it what they call line out, where they keep them in one line, essentially. On a trail, you're limited to 5, 6 feet, sometimes 4 feet. And if someone's coming next to you and the dog moves us just a couple inches over, it can get into somebody's way and it can be a hindrance. And that's why some trails don't allow real dog sledding or dry sled mushing, they call it dry, to happen year round, because when the trail's busy in the warmer months, they could become a hazard to others. What I do, they will almost all allow, because the dog is essentially on less than a 3-foot leash. Basically, it's just a small, it's no more than like 8 inches. So they have to remain in that concise footprint. So therefore, they won't bother any other trail traffic, and they're in total control, under my total control. And that's what makes it all trail worthy and able to happen. So it's pretty cool, this whole electric dog sled on wheels. But she built it, and she didn't have any experience welding, and she didn't want to weld. So she bolted it all together and soon found out even the dogs, they weren't Huskies, are a lot more powerful than she realized. She went back, and I think she still bolted it together, but she sent me a video, and I'm like, wow, that's exactly what I built them. I was so impressed.
Yeah, the websites are, we used to have really a whole bunch of websites.
There's still like 20 now.
Yeah, they've been condensed down, but there are some really, if you delve into, you can just start at woofdriver.com and go from there. That's kind of like the portal. But you can go through those websites and get some pretty, nothing we do is proprietary. And it's just the exact opposite. The whole team considers ourselves as educational. Like anything that we've worked out over the years, all the expertise, we couldn't be happier if you got in there and duplicated what we did. The best thing that we could ever imagine is having people do YouTube videos and get as many hits as we do, because we just want the message out. We're not. Yeah, this is a money spending adventure. This is not a money making adventure.
It's about the betterment of dogs, is what it's about, especially high energy breeds like Huskies.
So yeah, we are extensive in documentation. There's close up. You can get in, and we've taken pictures up underneath so you can see everything we've done. We describe, we used to, I'm not sure if it's still out there, we used to have one even with sources of materials.
Yeah, I have there.
You still have that?
Yeah.
So you can
I link you up with the current equipment I'm using for the most part. Some of it is custom.
We don't get a cut out of it.
No.
It's not like every time you get a click, we get a percentage. It's just there for your convenience. Like, what in the hell is a Springer and where do I find it? Oh, I can click this link. So it's that type of thing. And you can, if you have any kind of mechanical abilities, you could duplicate.
But you could have someone do it for you. Yeah. I'm got a little bit over the years, but my crew does. But you can hire somebody. Yeah, we even some of the stuff we've built has been a little bit hard for us to properly weld. Some of it's aluminum. We try to use lightweight materials, so we contracted an aluminum welder.
We've built a better mousetrap over the years, but you can still do an off the shelf. Like you can get a regular recumbent bike.
Right.
You can put a spring. Only thing you have to really do to do anything close to what we're doing is get a regular recumbent bike. You get a Springer, one of these. It's like less than $50.
No, they're 100 now.
Are they?
They're
Okay.
over 100.
They used to be. But still, they're cheap. We're not talking thousands. And then you just spoke cover. You want to cover wherever the dog is going to eat.
But you could just keep them out of the wheels, depending on your layout of your bike, your trike. Your
it depends on how tight
you can
want
keep
it
them
to.
out of the wheels.
Yeah.
You can. And there's other ones. I actually use a different one that I found on Amazon, and it's on my website, dogmotorsports.com, where the Chinese crest that I was talking about at the beginning of the show, 19 pounds, she's able to do it because it keeps her it's hardwired essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps her stationary so she can't reach the wheels at all.
Yeah.
Because to her, it would be more detrimental if she ran into the wheel. The big dogs,
we have a lot of
they learn from just feeling it, usually, if you would, with the regular bike, if you would touch them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. We've built a lot better mouse traps. Like Springers can be attached straight to the bike, but then the dog is close. Well, a lot of times we put like these big arching things to get the dog away, but then that makes up more room in the trail.
It takes it wider.
It's all explained in there.
And it all depends where you're running them. Like if you have a certain trail in your area that you want to accommodate, it might be, I've seen trails that are huge that you can have the dogs as wide as you want essentially. And it might be a narrow trail where you have to worry about space more. Since I'm traveling all over, I try to keep it as concise as possible with my latest mousetrap, as Sean says.
Yeah.
So basically that's
He's got
it.
a lot of mouse traps. All right. Deviate here. How many used or not used from your first Seiko cart till this latest custom welded thing? How many have been in between? How many do you think?
Oh, I would say upwards of 75.
75.
Yeah,
That many.
I mean, I still got most of them.
I know you
because
had a few
I go
dozen.
back and use them for parts, or I use them for new ways. Sometimes they're good for training dogs. Like I get different dogs that some are scared of the wheels, some are scared of being in a certain place on the bike, and all the different bikes I have, I can put them in so many different positions to get them comfortable with it, and then I can get them into the
this
desired
includes
one.
bicycles, like fat tire bicycles, and
Exactly.
and I'd call them boogie boards, but 3-wheeled stand-up scooters that are electrified. So it's sort of like what kids do, but for adults, and custom-made bikes and custom off-road electric vehicles like Swin Car and Easy Rider, which you see I'm using a lot now, Easy Raider. So there's
50
a lot.
to 75.
There's a lot in there.
There's a lot. Probably 75, yeah. There's a ton. And I've learned so much from it. And one of the other reasons I'm wearing the helmet and all the different camera angles are not only to share it, of course, it's about the memory for me, but also to see how the dogs are interacting with the equipment. Oh, they don't like in this position, or they run really well here, or they're pulling their line out here, so I need to move them over there, whatever. It really gives me an insight.
It's just like sports athletes. You'll see all the time, during practice, they're like, why do you have cameras out during practice? Because what better way to perfect your profession as an athlete than to be out there in the field and then go back and watch. And it's like, oh, I didn't do a proper extension on my throw or whatever.
It's like the
same thing.
It's
with
the
us.
NFL. They watch films all the time about how they performed last week. Because a lot of times, the way our brain works, we do stuff, and sometimes it's just we do it in our subconscious.
As Bill and I, one of the other things that Bill and I share in our past, not as much now, is martial arts, and we would use video all the time in my dojo for martial arts. And one of the things that I helped Bill do was actually an app that was pretty amazing. What happened? MA hits. Whatever happened to that?
Total control.
Total.
I made a whole music library for it. That was MA hits.
So it was really neat because the app was designed.
It was an Android available app.
Yeah. So you would actually use your phone. You would do your own technique, and then you can compare it to Bill, who is how many? Fifth level Taekwondo black belt. So he would do 5th level Taekwondo black belt moves, and then you could superimpose it and compare your moves, and it's a really good tool. And a lot of that mentality that came out from that and then led to that and came out of that is with the dogs. Like he'll come in, and I can tell you positive and negative. I'd be putting a video together, and he would see in that video a new system essentially fail, right? So we would set up a bike in a particular way, and it'd be like, oh, don't share that video. The dog is too far out. I'm like, I don't care. You don't care. They don't care. Well, I care. Take that out, replace that clip. It's like, who cares if the dog's nose is up the other one's butt or whatever? I don't know what it was. That's not it.
Well,
but the bottom line is that I'm just saying that's how much Bill would use the videos to focus on what his dogs were doing, because it's always has been evident. 20 years that we've been working together, it's always been extremely evident to me that he has other concerns, but his number one concern is always the dogs. It's always the dogs. And he would use half of these, when we'd put 10 cameras all over the place, some of them were there just so he could see what the dogs were doing.
Yeah. So it's a whole ecosystem, WooFDriver. Yeah. So, okay. So we're almost an hour in. We're going to probably wrap up our broadcast here today. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, some of the most important things from this, I hope you take, the dogdocumentary.com is, you'll see about the premiere, and you'll find out things that we couldn't touch on, even a 1% of what goes on in the WooFDriver world. You'll see a lot of that. Even at dogdocumentary.com, you'll see a teaser video there, and it has a lot of links to almost all the aspects we covered here today that you can dive into more depth at your own convenience or your own time you want to do it. We try to broadcast once a week. Usually we've been going for this Tuesday, 11 to noon hour Eastern Standard Time. That can change. Once we get a more steady show, we'll be able to solidify that time frame more and to advertise it, or to at least post it on Facebook so you know when to find us. We hope to have more guests like we had Sean today. I appreciate Sean taking the time and coming here. Sean lives in Virginia now. He was, when I first met him, he was in the Maryland region. He had moved to North Carolina, then South Carolina, and back to Virginia now. So he's going to meet us. The latest thing is, I hope he can meet us on trails down in Virginia, because as it gets cooler, we'll be doing more and more trails in the Southern Virginia region, and even North Carolina, and he might be able to meet us there, give another camera view.
Plus, one of the things, the big challenge is finding new trails. So that's one of the things I'm going to be able to do too, is go down and in my area find different paths that we haven't done before.
Yeah, I try to always do a different trail or something I've never done or haven't done in years or haven't done with the generation of Huskies I'm with now. Sometimes it's as much we are limited because of weather conditions, time concerns, whatever. So if I have to go to a trail that I've done before, I try to do a different part of it or a different kind of it, and a different change of season, because we get the 4 seasons here in Maryland. You get or on the East Coast where we're at, you get the different leaves changing colors. You get snow sometimes. You get the bare trees.
So the moral of the story is, Virginia landscapes would be more presented now.
Yeah.
And maybe northern North Carolina.
There you go. So I'm going to ask my producer, anything else, Rod? No, we're good. So dogdocumentary.com. all about my movie, and woofdriver.com, anything else you want to find out about me. There's a zillion websites in between there. Comments, concerns, anything you want to say after the live broadcast is over, I will address them on the keyboard in the comments section. And
funky helmets of Instagram. He's a model on there too.
And that's how we do it here in WooFDriver Land. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next week. Look forward to seeing you on the trail, and have a